Good afternoon. My name is Scott Redler, Chief Strategic Officer at T3Live.com. Welcome to today's recap and look ahead. It is Monday of a holiday-shortened week, and you're gonna, turn on the TV or read in the newspapers. Stock market all-time highs. Some people are gonna, look at that headline and be frustrated. Some people are gonna look at the headline and say, "Wow, I fought a lot of the media forces. I fought a lot of the naysayers, all the crash callers, and I stayed to my plan. And I'm so happy that I've been contributing to a 401k every month for the past 8 years, or for the last 18 years, or the last 22 years, or if you just started this year, whatever it is, you started participating in the stock market long term. And then for those of you that trade for alpha and trade for a living, we've seen a lot of patterns repeat themselves. If pre-election, I did a presentation, and then post-election, the day after, I did a presentation. I also, basically put it out into the Twitter sphere for everyone to look at it, study it, agree with it and disagree, but it was basically my short-term technical outlook on a lot of sectors the day after, or 2 days after the election, and then, some longer term. Okay, and then obviously, if you're watching this, you probably watch the morning call and recap. I, in a granular fashion, talk about names and sectors and how to, adjust around pivots every single day. And if you don't have good ideas or you need more ideas, then Redler All Access is a note every day that goes into your inbox at 8:30 with 25 names that have a lot of if-then type of scenarios that can create cash flow. So if you're watching this recap, you're like, oh, I want more, and you're not a member of Redler All Access, go to the front of the page and try and get yourself a subscription. Everything else is there. But for now, let's just get into it. Okay, the S&P closed at new highs. Oh my God, how could this happen? Okay, well, this is how it could happen. Remember Brexit? I've talked about this scenario so many different times. First move down, people expected. Next move up, people didn't expect. And then what happened? You saw commitment to the move off that lows, took out a descending trend line, and then you had 80 handles to the upside. So people who might have shorted this saying, oh, I thought the world would end on Brexit, if they got rid of their opinions, they could have covered once this descending channel was broken, or those that missed the snapback could have got long here and done well for the month of July into August. So here was your pre-election move, and then here was your post-election move. Okay, and basically I went over this every single day. Every day I put a chart of this on Twitter. You can go to my media selection. You'll see every day with some thoughts. So here was your first move into the descending little trend line here. So if you almost go like this, that was the same thing that happened post-Brexit. A little bit different. This one paused ahead of it. This actually broke above it and then digested. Okay, so if you would have missed this move, because everyone said the world was going to end when Trump got elected, or if he got elected, you could have said, okay, world didn't end again. Okay, we broke above the descending trend line, and now we're showing some commitment digesting. So this could have been your tier 1. Then it took out this spot. There's your tier 2. And then here we are now closing at all-time highs. People say, how did this happen? Why did this happen? You know what? Don't ask questions. Look at the technicals. Above the 8-day and 21-day moving average right here. You could have been out of the market during this entire process if you said, oh, I don't really put risk on when we're below the 8 and 21-day. Okay, boom. That's when we were below it. Right here, oh my goodness, we just reclaimed the 8 and 21-day. Let me get back involved some way in the spiders, in the S&P cash, in strong acting sectors, whatever it is, and you could have enjoyed yourself a nice move to highs. And it looks like, I think 2240 was the number I put out there here, and I think that obviously could happen, and we'll see at what rate. So with that said, I tried to focus a lot on the S&P cash and the spiders just to give you the roadmap, and then you create roadmaps around it. We know that right away after the election, other sectors were much stronger, quicker. Okay, you had the Russell that had a fast move, and it didn't look great going into the election, but then right here, what did it do? Took back the 8 and 21-day. That's when you could have switched gears, and then took out highs first. Okay, now today, yes, it didn't close on dead highs. You had a little bit of a doji, but it's extended. It doesn't mean that the S&P is going to fail or crash, or it just means that it's come a long way and some money rotated. Where did money rotate? Money rotated into oil, okay, a bit. We needed this to play catch up in order for the S&P to get a little stronger. And we've talked about how the XLE has been above the 200-day now for almost 7 months, which is technically better than when it was below it for the majority of the past 2 years. Here's your 200-day. It's been below it since September 2014 and above it since April. And now it's just poking its head above this range. And I do think it's sometime by year end, you could be seeing 76-ish, okay, at least, maybe even a little bit higher. but at this point, technicals are stronger versus weaker. Okay, and it just poked its head. I'm long this, I'm long some spiders. I'd be really upset if all of a sudden this was another failure here. But I think that, with a little space, you're going to get some, some better action, okay, to the upside. Just maybe not tomorrow or maybe tomorrow. So that's why you have to be in some. The bios had a big post-election move. Hasn't really done much since. But you know what? You look at it. Here's your gap up. Okay, here. Held the 200-day. Nice and tight. I know I tried this the other day. Okay, here. Okay, on this day I thought maybe that was it, and I got stopped out. And now I tried a little bit again today to keep my eyes on it because I've had my eyes elsewhere. Okay, so maybe tier 1 versus this, and who knows? Maybe it gets going a little bit. I mean, banks still, not as fast as they were, but we talked about how don't just be enamored shorting Bank of America because it had such a move from here to here. Maybe look to buy the consolidation. Here was a nice bull flag, and I gave you a little preview, I think, around here in 2017. I think this could be 24 to 28. It's not a huge call, but I'm just saying look at the weekly chart of this bank. Okay, this bank, in my opinion, is not worth just trying to short it for cute cash flow. You're probably better off being long it comfortably, 28, 24. Look at the size of this since 2009. So that's 7 years. It's been on the consolidation, and finally, banks are going, and this, I think, just has a bigger move ahead of it. So anyway, that's that for some of that stuff. And then, today I came in, I had no positions on, okay? And now all of a sudden I have 5 or 6, and if you're on the VTF, you saw me position early. You didn't have to have excessive risk over the weekend to make money today. You just needed a plan. And in my plan, in my morning note, I said, can Facebook on the buyback news reclaim the 200-day? If it does, I'm in there. Okay, 118.50, whatever that was. And the VTF saw me get long. What price? 118.50, because I was on my plan. And if you remember the VTF and you also get my note, you could have seen that. Sometimes I can't tweet out what I'm long. I don't work for Twitter. Okay, I participate with Twitter, and it helps me find like-minded people that trade, and that's awesome. But you don't get the entire story of what's going on all day long by just following me on Twitter or watching the Morning Call Express or even the recap. You need a little bit more. But anyway, here's Facebook. Look at the size of this, move today. The strategy was, can it reclaim the 200-day versus get rejected by it, which it did on Friday, and boy, did it reclaim it right here. Boom, boom, boom. That could have been your pivot. Why? Because if you were short Facebook thinking it was going to fail and be, a $100 stock, right here, it cleared an area where shorts probably cover. Oh my goodness, they're going to be buying back $6 billion worth of stock or 6 billion shares. I don't even know which one. But anyway, I did get long it around 118.50. You had some time. They saw on the VTF, you saw me get long, and I'm still in some. Not as much as I had intraday, but some overnight. And now we'll see, what happens into this spot tomorrow. Maybe it would be nice to get a little bit of follow through. If you look real quickly at the 5-minute chart, you'll see you had about 15 minutes to make a decision. Okay, here. Actually, let's go to the minute chart. You can see it a little bit clearer. Right here. Okay, this was your gap up. Okay, and literally it stayed there for, almost 15 minutes and then cleared this 118.50 right there. That was spot number 1. I was long thinking that could happen, then added, sold some, held some, then bought some again, okay, into this pullback, okay, and then, basically trended the rest of the day. So this could have been buy area 1, wait to see it hold and flag again. You didn't have to buy the dip here, but on the VTF we talked about that, and then you could have waited for it to take out the morning high. If you missed the first part of the move, and that could have been it. And now, we'll see if there's continuation. If we open down tomorrow, which could happen because it was up a lot today, we'll see what area could be buyable. Maybe here, okay, into this spot or into this spot. But at this point, taking some makes sense. Okay, that's that. Also something that I didn't come in long, I went long because of a pivot, which was Apple. Okay, Apple was getting tight. The 3-day range is 110.54. That's something like that. That was the last 3-day high. So I said, if we get above 110.54 and stay above it, you know what? I'm going to buy Apple. Just a tactical trade, something we do for cash flow. And if you look here, boom. Why is that the spot? Because this is where it couldn't get above. And if you were short Apple, you probably need to cover right there. If you missed Apple through this pivot, and by taking back the 200-day, you would have said, hey, Apple's kind of getting tight here. We're coming into the fourth quarter. Maybe a lot of people are going to buy Apple products, whatever. Took this out. That could have been your buy area. Now, we'll see, maybe it gets to this 113 to sell. So again, these are, I'm just trying to give you my thought process, and all these thoughts are written out on my note. Then you had Amazon strong, you had Google strong, and some other things just didn't participate. And then you put them all together, and that's your day. So at this point, I'm running out of time. We had a pretty clean move in the S&P to highs. It's been methodical, which I go over every single day. If you don't know when, by 8:45, I usually have a chart of the S&P Cash or Spiders on Twitter, free, giving you a roadmap. And there's also thoughts there. So read the thoughts because I get a little bit more granular and I talk about some other things. And then, I don't know, I just even lost track. It was a long weekend. I went to the Giant game. I'm not even a Giant fan, but went with 100 people from my town. We had a cornhole tournament, got on the field. It was great. But anyway, now I'm babbling again. By the way, tonight, look out. I'm putting my Thanksgiving recipe for my turkey. I've been making it for over a decade. It's pretty simple, but it's great. My parents come in for the holiday, and I love having them. And the turkey's always a crowd pleaser, so I figured, last year I actually put it on paper because people were asking me about it. So look out for that too. And if you have a great recipe, maybe send me yours. But you'll see that email if you're on our email list. If not, look for my tweet. I'll tweet it out later. And that's it. Tune in tomorrow morning. Hopefully, we get a little bit upside follow through. We'll have some more ideas, and we'll continue, before we set sail for Turkey Day. Have a good one.